Portal Combat! Welcome to Andy and Ari On3, presented by Culver's. We should have some techno music playing now. That didn't land with you, does it? You don't even know what I'm talking about, do you?
I mean, the way you made that noise sounded like Mario Kart, so I don't know like where we were going.
Mortal Kombat? You didn't play Mortal Kombat?
Oh, I played Mortal Kombat. I'm just saying I know, yeah. Finish him. I played it. Yeah. I was a kid in the 90s. Yeah. I don't think I remember vividly being in the car with my dad driving to school when I was like in third grade and asking him, how old do I have to be to play Mortal Kombat? And he's like, dude, I don't even know what that is. And I'm like, that. I remember that.
Well, I know there's a lot of you saying finish him when it comes to Nico and just tell us where he's going. But we don't know where he's going. But we do know this. Nico Iamaleava has officially entered the portal with a do not contact tag. Don't call me, I'll call you. Does this mean that that Team Nico knows where he's going, or does this mean that they've already been working on this thing for several days and don't really need any more suitors?
Does it give you hope that maybe they were more equipped to do this than we thought?
Nothing they've done gives me hope, but you never know. Like, they could surprise us, because this is the sort of thing that if you are actually negotiating with him, let's say you've been negotiating with him since Saturday, it's not something you'd want to advertise, because you're going to get killed for it, especially if you're going to meet his price. But
because the thing that I think is interesting about this is you're in a position where you want as many suitors as possible bidding. Obviously, money is what drives you, or you wouldn't be in the situation to begin with. So why would you put the do not contact tag on? You would want as many offers from as many people as possible to create a sense to create a hot market, right? Like, I don't understand that.
I just think the do not contact, it's sort of like the velvet rope at the nightclub, and you let the line build up even though there's nobody in the club yet, because you want people to see the line outside the club. Like, this is an exclusive deal. This is a 5-star quarterback. We can't just have any old school emailing.
Yeah, that's I didn't think of it that way. That's a really good way to put it.
And they certainly think they're dealing with an exclusive product that is worth more than most of the quarterbacks in the country. Now, we know that the market may not be there for that. But I don't know. I like, how have you been in the chat's idea? Just go to Hawaii and just call Hail Marys. I'm all for that. Like, if you can't get the right deal, if you can't get however much money you want, just do the funniest one.
Yeah. I'm wondering if we're going to find out today as a result of this too. The timeline of it seems a little bit different now to me. I don't know if I'm over analyzing the do not contact tag. You tell me. Is there anything to look into there, or do you think that this is just another scheme and an attempt to drum up some interest? I
mean, Occam's raised with this one. Do not contact tag almost always means I know where I'm going.
Right.
So I say we operate from there, that they know where they're going, that because they've had days to talk it over. We've talked to people from different schools who were not interested. We know the market is probably not what they thought it was going to be. But I'm sure there are interested schools, and I'm sure they've been talking to him.
Yeah. I mean, there was no way that he wasn't going to get a phone call from somebody, right? Like, he's too good of a player to, I mean, there have been people who have done way worse things than Nico who have gotten second chances in football, right?
Correct.
Some of the biggest stars in the NFL, I'm not going to name their names, you know who they are, have done some things that make them reprehensible human beings, and people still cheer for them. So, like, I understand that Tennessee fans have vitriol towards him, and they should. I would too if I were a Tennessee fan, but that doesn't mean that he's a terrible human. Even people who listen, Andy, you ever been in a casino and up without? Dude, when we were in New Orleans together,
I'm the cooler, by the way, in case nobody knows.
When we were in New Orleans together, Andy wanted to go on a walk, and I was like, okay, or whatever. I don't know what you were doing.
We're going to dinner. We're going to Koshan Butcher.
Yeah, but I went 2 hours or an hour and a half earlier than you.
Yeah.
And I was in the casino and I was crushing it. I think I was up like $1,200, $1,400, $1,500. I don't remember. And then Andy comes and I had all the money that I came with in my pocket. And I'm like, you know what, Andy? Let's create a story. Let's create a memory. And I just started like hammering the blackjack hands, trying to get greedy and take the winnings and play with house money and triple or double that up and try to get out of there up $2 or $3 grand. And I got cooled. Like he stood behind me and I got destroyed. And he's like, I'm so sorry about that. And I'm like, Andy, that was
yeah. I'm never going to meet you in a casino again because I am the cooler.
But the thing about it, though, is that like I have done what Nico has done. We all have done it, maybe not to the same scale. And maybe if it's a bigger scale, it's worse because you're already made with $2.5 million in the year, right? Like, I don't know if trying to turn 1,000 into 3 at the casino for a normal person like me is the same thing as somebody turning their back on $2.5 million for one season, right? Like, but I understand the feeling of we're a hot product. We are commanding a ton of money already. There are other people that we perceive to be better than commanding more in this market. Let's try to push it. I think it was stupid. I think it was a bad move. I think it was bad business, but I don't think he's a bad person. Like, so like, to me, like I knew that he was going to go into the portal and get some interest. I just don't think he's going to make what he would have made because that's what happens when you keep playing blackjack. Sometimes you get cleared out. Sometimes you hit, but sometimes you clear it out. Like right now, Nico still feels like he has a chip in a chair. He's still at the table and has a little stack in front of him. Maybe he can go on a run and the shoe gets hot. Somebody comes in at the 9th hour and pays him a ton of money to come there. But I don't know that this is going to be well, you're out of luck. You're going to, a community college now. I know he'll find a place to play.
Yeah, it just probably isn't going to be what they envisioned when they put the screws to Tennessee. And look, I think we can pretty safely say that staying at Tennessee for the deal they were on would have been the better move. But maybe they'll surprise us. Fence Post in the chat says, go to Syracuse. That's Tennessee's first opponent. That would be incredibly funny. Now, Syracuse did name Ricky Collins as starting quarterback last week. So I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's possible.
One time when I was in middle school, a girl told me that we were in a relationship. And then she hit the portal like the next day. So anything can happen. That's a lesson I learned. Naming somebody the starters it's a cute thing to think that matters if somebody is better is along the way. Fran Brown, he's trying to win there, man. If he thinks there's an upgrade and they can get him, they'll do it.
What would the reaction be at Neyland Stadium? What would the welcome at Neyland Stadium be for Nico Iamaleava week 1?
That would be the thing that gets us off the Ohio State-Texas game, right? Because it's the same day, right?
Oh, we go. Wait, that's in Atlanta, right? That's not in,
it's in Atlanta. Stadium. It is in Atlanta.
Yeah. Okay. It's still going to be mostly Tennessee fans. It'll be hard to tell because everyone will be wearing orange, but it'll be mostly Tennessee fans. That would be such a loud boo.
The girl's name.
We would not be going to Tennessee, Ohio State. We would be going to that game in Atlanta.
Andy, just so you know, her name was Jenny Stein, and it still stings. Just so you know. I was like,
listen, Jenny doesn't deserve this smoke. You won.
I don't know where she is. She's probably happily married with kids now. I just want her to know that she hurt 7-year-old me. Like I thought we had something.
Well, Josh Heupel, I guess, hurt Nico.
Yeah.
Or Nico hurt Josh Heupel. I just, it is amazing to me that this has continued to bubble and boil. And we were not going to make every show this week about Nico. I promise. Like that was not the original plan. But it just keeps getting more interesting.
Yeah. And this is actually an interesting thing, too, because I want to get into something I wrote from On3 in the Wolverine Scoop here, put something on here. And he said, if Nico wasn't bigger than the Power T, then why was he getting paid more than any UT player while he was still in high school?
He's getting paid less than Josh Heupel, and Josh Heupel says he's not bigger than the Power T either. Yeah. So
but I do think that
you're going to need a pretty large amount to be bigger than the Power T.
But I wrote an entire column about how nobody's bigger than the Power T. I'm with you on this, Andy, but I will say that if you pack up the money, as you mentioned, for somebody at the beginning of at the end of their high school career before they step on campus, you are cultivating a thought process, right or wrong, that you are more important than the Power T. That's the gamble of doing this, which I think we've covered extensively. So, this to me is an important thing to realize as Tennessee and other programs go for high school kids for big amounts of money, because if you do pack a huge message in the form of a check with multiple commas right out of the gate, you are cultivating an environment that promotes this type of behavior. And we've talked about that. So
it's the Kirby Smart discussion. It's the how much do you evaluate how motivated by money they are? Because it is an important part of the evaluation now. Like if they are purely a highest bid player and they don't care about any other factors, if it's clear they don't care about whether they're going to get developed or whether they're going to win championships, like you're probably going to have to take a few of those players on every team. You're probably going to have to, but you can't build the whole boat out of them. And that's the issue. And you probably can't do it at quarterback.
Let me rely on your big brain here for a second that's able to recall things that I can't recall. Are there players that were like Nico in the recent years that we viewed as pay for play type guys that went somewhere specifically for money who actually turned out to be great program players? Like, I'm trying to think, like there isn't anybody that comes to mind that like went to a place that they wouldn't have gone otherwise.
Okay. Well, I'll give you one. Allegedly, because no one's ever proven that money changed hands. Cam Newton.
Yeah.
Allegedly Auburn paid.
I just mean in the NIL era where it's all out in the open too.
Oh,
because Cam Newton didn't have a choice back then. Like once you were at Auburn,
that's
like,
true.
It's having the choice to leave for more that makes this interesting.
I'm trying to think of guys who left. Like, so Caleb Williams left Oklahoma, but that was to follow Lincoln Riley.
But I don't know that I would even consider Caleb Williams being a pay-for-pay. Like Nico,
I wouldn't either. I don't think, because he was just going to USC. Like if Caleb Williams, when he was leaving Oklahoma, wanted to make the most money, he would have just opened it up.
Yeah, and the other thing too is maybe there just aren't that many. Maybe Nico is an interesting, and like Tennessee is a good program that recruits at a high level. But the 5-star prospect from Southern California winding up at Tennessee during that point in time probably wouldn't have happened without money involved, right? Like it's a fair thing to
Correct.
say. Tennessee
that
fans
was a time when those types of players went to a few schools, and that was it. And Tennessee, as producer River says, desperately needed a splash.
And Tennessee too was parading how they were first to NIL as an accomplishment. So I don't think that it's bad, but I guess. There's a few people in here that are saying Quinshon Judkins, right? Because they ended up winning the national title. But if Ohio State would have lost to Texas in the semifinals, then he would have just been another player that played at Ohio State for a year. He might be a legend now because they won the national title, but I don't know that.
But he is that type of player. Like that was the knock on him at Ole Miss, is that he wanted to renegotiate quite a bit. So like that actually is a pretty good example, and he turned out to be what Ohio State paid for.
Yeah, maybe Caleb Downs, but again, I don't know that Ohio State falls into the category of wouldn't have got this type of player otherwise. So, maybe the list is small, which is why I'm having a hard time coming up with other examples. But this leads into what I wrote today, Andy, which is at the right price, somebody's worth a stab. And we got into this a little bit, yesterday with Nikos on the show. But now that he's not here and we can yell at each other, I wanted to revisit it. So you read the column
before we do that, I want to tell everybody who's watching on Twitter right now, if you want to keep watching the show, join us on YouTube. The link you're watching on Twitter, just scroll down to the next tweet from me that has the link to join us on YouTube. The chat is much livelier. You have a much better chance of getting your comment put on screen. You join the conversation. You can yell at Ari, because I'm about to. But join me in yelling at Ari on YouTube. We'll see you there. Okay, Ari, you were saying.
There's this notion that Nico is untouchable right now. And I saw, like, even Paul Feinbaum said this. I think that you alluded to this a little bit, that he is somebody that would create instant cancer in a clubhouse, cannot be trusted, is unhinged, could leave at any moment, could hold out in the middle of the season. All these different things are the reason why this human being can't be paid or trusted. I think, and this is a story that Pete also reported yesterday, which is there's a ton of programs out there waiting to see if the price becomes more reasonable. But I think he's 1,000% worth a stab for $1 million for a program that otherwise wouldn't have a chance to get him. And the reason why is because you're already going into that under the assumption that he wants to be in college for one more year. You won't have to deal with any other portal windows with him because the assumption is that he's gone at that point. He desperately needs to have a good year on tape if he wants to make it to the NFL, which is obviously the ultimate goal. And if you're a team that needs a quarterback or an elevated, stature at the position with a high ceiling, that $1 million has been spent in the NIL era in way worse ways by other programs than it would be for, let's say like a Maryland who lost their quarterback recently, or even a Syracuse or a Wake Forest or somebody who wants to create a splash. At the very least, you get butts in the seats. I know people view the guy as Judas, but let me tell you one thing we know unequivocally about college football, Andy. No matter where he ends up, the fans of that team are going to root like hell for him. Like he could be a hero for somebody else.
Of course. It's sort of like how Ohio State fans hated Urban Meyer when he coached Florida and then loved him when he coached Ohio State.
That's how
all politics are local.
So to me, as we wait to see what happens, the do not contact thing kind of throws a wrench in the notion that he might slide down the market. But I kind of view this the equivalent.
I think they all know who to contact. As Gabe Mills says in the chat.
Yeah.
He entered with the do not contact tag. Is that because you have to contact his dad instead of him? Yeah, everybody knows who to call.
I wish there was a contact dad tag. I probably would have used that at 20 or 19.
So I am not going to yell at you about this one. We will. I think we may get a little more heated if we talk about our boss's suggestion, which you tend to agree with and I very much disagree with.
I don't know. We'll get to that.
But Maryland or some school like that. Yes, I think a school that is in a situation where they need a quarterback who can upgrade their talent on offense, that was in a position where, so Maryland's a good example of this. Like they need to have a good year.
Yeah,
they need to have a bowl type season or a 7 or 8 win type season for Mike Locksley, and they've had some really bad fortune with this. Like Billy Edwards Jr. was a pretty good quarterback for them last year, stolen by Wisconsin. Lost them in conference. That's the type of program that could use somebody like Nico. You throw $1 million at him, see if he says yes. Why not?
Yeah. And also too, Nico's taking his medicine and understanding, hey, this wasn't the right play. I've got to salvage what I can. I can still go to a power school in a big time conference, try to compete at a high level and get to the NFL. And if you play well, because listen, we can't erase the notion that there's a chance that he reaches or gets closer to reaching his ceiling. As we said on the show yesterday, 25% better play last year means he's probably still at Tennessee and getting what he wants. Maybe not all that he wants, but they would have come to an agreement of some sort because Tennessee would have been more apt to not want to lose him. And I think that there is a situation out there that could exist that we're not talking about. Maybe the answer is he's just going to end up at UCLA later today. Maybe that's what's going to happen. But at the very least, I think that for the right program, this isn't a person who committed a violent felony or something. He is a normal guy who might have gotten caught up. We don't know the extent of his own, doing in this and his responsibility. I think that as an adult, whether you're somebody who leans on your dad or not, that you don't bear any responsibility for it. Because I think when you're making $2.5 million a year,
you should take control of your life.
You can take control over your own life at this point. But at the same time, I don't think that he's untouchable or that he's a cancer that can't be put into a locker room. I disagree with that notion. So I wrote that. That's at On3 now. Now, do you want to go to another thing that
before we do that, I want to tell everybody about Culver's, because we are going to Green Bay next week. We're going to be hosting Andy Ari live from the draft Thursday and Friday of next week in Green Bay. So previewing the first round Thursday night on Thursday morning, recapping the first round, getting you ready for the next set of rounds on Friday morning with our friends from Culver's, because they were born in Wisconsin. They're the home of the legendary ButterBurger, fresh frozen custard, and Wisconsin cheese curds. And there's no better representation of America's Dairyland to that. And they are now bringing that to you wherever you are. I'm down in Florida. I got a Culver's a couple miles from me. Those frozen custards, they hit on the hot days. We will have very special guests throughout the draft, and you won't want to miss it. So stay tuned for more details and get ready for a weekend of fun made fresh with our friends at Culver's. Ari, let's talk about what our boss said, because you sent me this tweet and immediately started building a case. And I've just like, no, absolutely not. So
before you go through it, Andy, I want you to know that earlier in the day, before I read Shannon's tweet, it actually occurred to me that it could be a possibility because these two parties might find that they need each other. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So here's what our boss Shannon Terry tweeted. What if Tennessee takes back Nico? Heupel lays down the rules for Nico's return and his family. The deal stays the same, but Tennessee builds in win-based incentives, which you can't actually do under current rules. Dad apologizes to BI7CH Nakos, and a bad situation turns good. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. The Bible verse, Luke 15:11 through 32. So chapter 15, verses 11 through 32. That is the story of the prodigal son, if you don't know your Bible stories. And so the story of the prodigal son, if you haven't been to Sunday school, is you got two brothers. One does everything right. One is a complete screw up. The screw up leaves to go screw up some more elsewhere. And then one day he comes back and dad's like, hey, we're going to kill the fatted calf. We're throwing a big old party. And the brother who does everything right, who always obeyed his dad, is like, what the hell? What are we doing here? And dad's like, we have to celebrate because he was lost and now he's found. So would Tennessee kill the fatted calf if Nico were to come crawling back? I don't think so. I don't think there's any chance. I think you would get the opening scene of Godfather 2 in Vegas when the senator's trying to shake down Michael Corleone. And Michael Corleone says, you could have my offer now. My offer is this. Nothing.
And that was Theology with Andy and Ari. And
Godfather 2.
The thing that I think we need to this is like a very heavy conversation. We have to start with the first part, which is, do you think if Nico publicly apologized, his dad called himself an idiot for doing what he did, we played ourselves, we're sorry, that Tennessee fans would accept the apology? Like that's the number one question that I have. Because if
they thought it would win them 2 more games this season, they'd accept the apology immediately.
Okay, so here's the thing. I've been on the bad side of Vol Twitter. Okay.
Not as bad as Nico, but yes.
Recently. Okay. Now I'm not their quarterback and I didn't leave them high and dry. I'm good with them now. I've got Vol Twitter behind me now. I do think that if Tennessee fans feel in their guts that Nico could win them an extra few games or gives their team the best chance to win, and he apologizes, that they could conceivably move on from it. Now, there are 2 different things that you have to consider here, Andy, which is what do the fans think, right? And then, of course, what do the people behind the scenes who were involved in the contentious contract negotiations to begin with think? And those might be 2 very different things. Like, they might not want to deal with it anymore. I mean, when you get to a contract negotiation, or when you get into a negotiation with anybody or an argument with anybody, it gets to a point where you don't want to speak to that person anymore. And we might be there, okay? So, I'm not saying that this is like a perfect solution. My question has always been and will remain to be is if Tennessee sticks with Merkslinger, and he's not a very good player yet. I'm not saying he won't be eventually.
I love that everybody in who watches the show is going to be calling him Merkslinger and probably thinks that's his real name. But I'm fine with it. Let's go.
What is it? I thought it was his name.
Merklinger is his real name, but he's Merkslinger.
With me on this, Andy. And Tennessee knows, and Josh Heupel knows, and the people who are trying to sign him or get him or even offered him the money to begin with know that he is the best player that they can get right now because the market at the moment, portal's open, nobody flew out of the sky yet.
No, I have not posted the checkerboard end zone on somebody going in with a do not contact tag.
And Nico's best offer is $8.99 from UCLA. And they both come to realize separately, like a girl and a boy who break up, that they actually are happier and better off with each other and then reconcile, whether or not that could turn into a better situation for everybody rather than
I'm really glad that you created a 2002 rom-com starring Rachel Lee Cook and Freddie Prinze Jr. as Nico Iamaleava for this story. But that ain't gonna happen. It's not gonna happen.
In theory, could it happen? In theory, is it crazy?
Because while you are correct when you say that there are people who've done a lot worse things than Nico, like to the coaching staff and the players at Tennessee, there's a broken trust there that is really hard to mend at this point. I think that's the reason. Like if this were not when it happened and how it happened, like if this were earlier, let's say it was December, I think maybe, you could make the case, but I don't think you can make the case for that now.
Andy, the guy's gone a year from now either way.
I know.
Trust D&D back. He has to play. He has to play.
If you don't think the season's going to be that different with or without him, make the point you want to make.
If you don't think it's going to be that much different, that maybe that's the reason he's not there. I'm saying if they both got to a point where they felt like they needed each other again, in theory, I feel like fences could be mended if people wanted to step to the table and apologize. Now, if you're willing to do what Nico's camp did to begin with, I doubt you're probably in a position that would like Shannon's like publicly apologize to Nico's. The man's tweet is still up. I don't think that we're anywhere close to him apologizing to Nico's for anything. But if he actually was remorseful for his actions, and maybe it's only because you found out you made a stupid decision, but either way, you can be remorseful and really remorseful, and you apologize and say, hey, I know I left you guys, and that was the biggest mistake of my life. Let me put every single ounce of energy I have left in my system into being a Vol and repairing this relationship and making this team better. Then you might have a more driven, more reliable quarterback than you otherwise might have had because he realized what he lost. I don't know. Maybe I'm watching too many Disney movies, but my wife and I had some tough times while we were dating. I'm sure that you had some tough times. Like, I don't know. Like you when you are in a strong relationship with somebody that you love, you make it work. You make it work and you fight through it, and it makes you stronger. I don't know. Maybe I'm just too idealistic. I'm not saying I think this is going to happen.
Oh, it's producer River.
Ari, you need to stop. You just, it is not happening.
I didn't say it
at all.
Happening. I don't think it's going to
happen.
It
would never happen. I don't think it would ever happen.
But River.
What?
If Nico publicly apologized, came back to Tennessee and rocked shit next year, you wouldn't love that guy? Come on.
I mean, it'd be a hell of a redemption story, but they're not doing that. There's not going to be a public apology or nothing like that.
Maybe I'm giving
that's the part I think is the least believable part of this scenario is
that people could apologize with $2 million. Are you kidding me?
I mean, listen, I would be on my knees begging. I'd be like, look, you want me to make a statement? You want me to make a video? What do you want? I'm sorry. I mean, I'm like that with my wife. For nothing.
Yeah. I say sorry to my wife when she's wrong to stop the argument. Okay. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. You could tar feather me naked at midfield at halftime of a Tennessee game for $2.5 million. You could have 150,000 people going, shame.
I agree. I do not have that level of shame. We
didn't make the first $2 million. So maybe you're when you already have some money, it makes you a little bit, but yeah, I don't know. It's just a theory. And Shannon posted it and I was like, when I read it, like people were like, you're crazy.
No, it's not the worst idea. And in an ideal world, it is something that would be a realistic possibility.
And why can't we live in an ideal world in this messed up, dysfunctional world of college football for 5 minutes?
Right. It actually should be a possibility. It should be. If you think about it logically, it should be, but it's not. Like I said,
I don't think it's going to happen. No.
Josh Heupel is Michael Corleone at the beginning of Godfather 2. You can have my offer now. My offer is nothing. So, which I think is, if he did come back apologizing, that would be where you'd start negotiating at zero.
Why don't we go to the end of Goodfellas now? If we want to stay with.
And kill everybody?
No.
Or just have a helicopter chasing somebody.
When, what's the main character's name?
Henry Hill.
Henry Hill goes back to Paulie after he was dealing dope, after they told him not to deal dope. And he's crying in the restaurant. And he goes, I'm sorry, Paulie. I don't have anybody else to turn to. And he rips off a few bands and gives it to him. But he says, I've got to turn my back on you now. Maybe throw him a few $100 just to, I don't know. He didn't get to come back.
Send Nico $500 and say, enjoy enjoy the Mountain West.
Send him $100K and be like, hey, thanks for your service. I don't know. Okay, but it was fun to talk about.
It's crazy. All right. We do have to talk about the rest of the transfer portal. Now, every time we talk about Nico, we talked about the flip side of the transfer portal. Is there anybody Tennessee would take? So, in terms of other quarterbacks who've officially gone in, South Alabama's Gio Lopez went in this morning. He's expected to go to North Carolina. We haven't really seen anybody else. Jake Garcia, former 4-star recruit, had been at, let's see, Miami, Missouri, and East Carolina. He's back in, but he's not considered an option for any of this. I don't know if we're going to see anybody. I remember last week when I said I might post the checkerboard end zone if somebody goes in with a do not contact tag. I'm not sure we're going to see it.
Well, here's the other thing too. Like, Merkslinger could be really good. He might be a little bit early in his development, but they signed him out of high school as a top 250 player. Like, it's not like the guy's chopped liver. And I think at times in college, we lose sight of talented people because the glitz and glamour of the offseason discussions, like the one that we're having right now, carry the boat in terms of storyline. But you're the one who always says, pick the guy that goes to the place where the competition's already there and isn't afraid of it. I mean, maybe the plan wasn't for him to start and he knew that he might not be ready right now. But at the same time, I do believe that quarterbacks in this day and age are far more willing or able and seasoned to play earlier in their careers than they were 20 years ago. By being forced into this situation through the offseason and being in a position where he gets to spend the next few months as the guy, going into fall camp as the guy, that's a hell of a lot better. And Heupel said it himself than if Nico would have blown his knee out in week 2. Teams have to replace their quarterbacks in a time where they don't have the opportunity to go out and get somebody else. And I actually think the best possible redemption story, or the hell of a story that it would be for Tennessee, maybe not a redemption story, but just a great story, is if he was awesome. Could you imagine if he just turned out to be really good, or they won 9 games behind him?
No, he's a legend. He never has to buy a beer in the state again.
So, but maybe they feel good about it, but I don't know that I would go out and overpay for somebody that they don't perceive to be better than Merkliner.
Well, and the other factor is, and I was talking to some folks about this morning. If you were to come into Tennessee, one, you have to turn your back on your team. And it's probably a starting quarterback who made a big show of coming back in the winter. Like somebody who had some other chances to go somewhere, who decided to stay, probably took a better deal to stay where they are. So they've already made a show about coming back. They also are taking a massive risk by going to a place where they have to learn the offense in 100 days versus being at a place where they've been running the offense for a year or 2 years or whatever it is. So I think that's the other piece.
But there's one thing we know about Heupel too, is that guy can coach offense, right? Like that guy can draw up some plays and get you in a good position. I think that would be fine.
Right, but you'd have to learn that offense if you never played in it before. It's tricky with the limited amount of time you have.
Yeah.
So that's the hardest part. Let's talk about some other folks in the transfer portal. Georgia's Branson Robinson, the running back, just entered. This is a guy who, as a freshman in 2022, looked very promising. Had a bad knee injury in 2023. The knee injury, I don't know if he had another knee injury or if this was a complication of the first one, but it hindered him last year. So he's in the portal now.
And Frazier's a stud. Let's not get through this conversation without acknowledging that Georgia.
Yeah, exactly. Frazier's awesome. Jaden Ott we mentioned yesterday. Now, Jaden Ott was already in the portal because he was a grad transfer and they can enter at any time. So he has signed with Oklahoma. Oklahoma also signed an offensive lineman from Stanford yesterday as well, Jake Mikula. So this is Oklahoma trying to. Ari. Yes.
Losing your top receiver in the spring is terrible for them, especially after what they dealt with last year.
Right.
But I could be talking myself into an Oklahoma-Florida situation in this offseason. They're getting good. I think that I'm going.
These are good players they're getting. These are good players they're getting who are sitting here. Both players signed up to play in the Pac-12. The situation changed on them. Jaden Ott had a pretty injury. Jaden Ott would be in the NFL right now, except he was injured quite a bit last year. and didn't have the kind of year he wanted. So he wants to have a good year and then go pro. So yeah, Oklahoma is getting some talent right now.
They also have a very, very hard schedule. So I don't know if talking yourself into them being good, even if you're right, you'll still look wrong.
Can I just read the last 7 games for our people who are listening in podcast form?
Sure.
Texas, at South Carolina, Ole Miss at home, at Tennessee, at Alabama, Missouri at home, LSU at home. Barf. That's brutal.
What does Brent Venables have to do against that schedule to keep his job?
They got to be better than we were last year. There's definitely like improvement. I don't think it has to be like make the playoff, but I do think significant improvement.
Do you think significant improvement has to manifest in a great record? Or do you think that people can use their eyes and say, hey, yeah, we got better? Even
I don't know that it has to in the record. They can't get their asses kicked. Like there cannot be another version of last year's South Carolina game where they had 0 chance to win the game from the opening kickoff. You can't have that.
Yeah. I think Matera is going to be excellent. I love Deion Burks. I love Ott. I love that they're helping their offensive line, which was the reason they stunk last year. They were competitive in a lot of games last year, despite the fact that they were terrible on offense. They beat the crap out of Bama. Like, I don't think that like OU is just like some, like, I don't want to make the mistake that we make sometimes, which is, well, they stunk last year, so they're going to stink next year. Like, we didn't think they were going to stink last year either. So like, let's just pump the brakes on that. I think that there's a chance that OU could be a tough out. Continue.
All right. So other players who have entered the transfer portal, Syracuse offensive lineman Kalen Ellis, Northwestern quarterback Mike Wright, who you probably remember from Mississippi State and Vanderbilt before that. And here's a big one. Decoldest Crawford started out at Nebraska, went to Louisiana Tech. He tweeted this morning he's in the portal, screenshotted his email. River, run the commercial.
I'm so glad we called SOS. Our AC is the coldest.
I'm always the coldest.
SOS to the rescue.
Hey, this is Decoldest Crawford, wide receiver from Louisiana, now playing in Lincoln. When your AC isn't the coldest, you call SOS Heating and Cooling. Their techs don't make commissions, so they give you an honest opinion, fair pricing, and longer warranties than the competition guaranteed. Take it from the coldest. We will keep you cool this summer.
SOS.
That is NIL.
Even if Decoldest Crawford does not wind up being a star anywhere he lands, we will always have that commercial. Always.
That's what NIL was supposed to be.
That's beautiful. No, it wasn't. NIL was supposed to be paying players. It was to get it past stupid people who didn't want to pay players.
Yeah. No, I know, but like that's the
it was to trick stupid people.
To do.
Yeah,
you got a few $1,000 to do a local AC commercial. By the way, those AC people are loaded. I'm finding out. Yeah.
Oh,
we talked about this in San Antonio.
They have what you need, baby. They have what you need. Especially if you live where you live in Dallas or where I live in Florida. Yeah, they got you. They got what you need.
I'm telling you this right now. If I ever got laid, and this is going to be the funniest thing that you've ever heard, knowing what you know about me. But if I ever got laid off or couldn't find a job in journalism, and there isn't a day that goes by that I don't take for granted how lucky I am to continue to have gainful employment in this industry when people around me, and me, we all fight for our lives every day because it's a very hard industry to stay employed in. That I feel like I would want to go to trade school and like learn a craft with my hands. Like I'm going to be the best plumber. I feel like by the time I was 50, I'd be loaded.
I think you would run the business pretty well. I think you need to learn how to do the stuff. But yeah, I think you're capable of it. But no, my son has a friend whose parents run an HVAC company, and I've asked, okay, when can he work for you? Like when can he learn how to do this stuff? And they said 16. So I said, okay, yeah. we may have a little summer gig going.
I went to a play date at someone's house in Highland Park that goes to my daughter's school. And they gave us the address. We pull up. This house is 9,000 square feet in one of the most richest neighborhoods in the country. I can't imagine what. And like they own a business that epoxies garage floors.
Keep going.
And they scaled the business, and now they've got 2,900 trucks across the country going out, charging people $2,500 to epoxy their garage floor. And it's all 100% profit. I always used to think when you growing up that in order to be really, really wealthy, you had to be a Harvard graduate in investment firms or a lawyer or a doctor or something. And like the richest people I know, the richest people I'm around in Dallas every day are blue collar workers who knew how to scale a business. And I like it. And I think it's so cool.
It is very cool. Now, you're afraid to put up a curtain rod, so that is probably your barrier to entry.
Hold on a second. Can I show you this?
Yes.
Hold on. I'm going to change the camera for a second. I'm just going to show it to the people watching.
The curtain's up. Hey, I mean, it's not actually covering the entire window, but it's up.
You see there, like right there. I couldn't reach that, so I just let it.
Yeah, we see the solar flare coming in. Oh my goodness. Well, I eagerly await Ari the plumber. I think that's gonna be a fun show when you retire to become a plumber.
What about like just astroturfing?
Oh my God. I can tell you from the little bit we put in the backyard, there's a lot of money in that.
Yeah. Just like mulching. It doesn't have to be something technical like with your hands.
Well, our guy Grant Firking, who works at our company in high school, started a ground cover company, and now that thing is massive. So absolutely.
Grant's a G, dude.
But Decoldest Crawford back in the portal. Colorado safety Savion Riley now back in the portal. He started out at Vanderbilt originally. UCF cornerback Traquan Fagans. He's been at Alabama, USC, and UCF. Are you seeing a pattern for some of these, Ari?
What's the pattern?
That people who started at a place, didn't win a job, went to another place, didn't win a job, went to another place, didn't win a job. There's a lot of that going on.
Yeah. And maybe we're finding out that leaving isn't always the cure that you think it's going to be. And I think that maybe if you're not saying there's a reason for it. Yeah.
There's also some guys, and I'm not naming names or accusing anybody I've named here, but there's some guys who just weren't that good. Maybe they were over-evaluated in high school, and they just weren't as good.
You know what happens a lot, too, in high school recruiting is that a lot of times, too, much like in the NFL draft at the high school level, you're projecting how somebody will develop. And a lot of times, too, you earn rankings because you're a early bloomer who is awesome very early on, and you just don't grow or don't get better, and then you just aren't good enough. Like I remember,
I'm learning that now as I'm watching my son who's going into his sophomore year in high school.
Yeah,
and we're going to be hitting some camps and stuff. But there are guys in his class that already have offers that people have been talking to them for a year or two at this point, and like I'm looking at my kid, I'm like, okay, he's not ready to be recruited at all. He may eventually grow into that.
Yeah,
but he's not ready for that.
And sometimes people that age, it happens in 3 months. Like it doesn't.
Right, you hit the growth spurt or whatever. Yeah. Exactly.
But so the thing that I remember too, in 2016, I think I was covering a recruitment for Danny Clark. Do you remember Danny Clark?
No.
Okay. Well, he was a freshman 5-star quarterback out of Massillon, Ohio, and Ohio State took this kid as a true freshman, or like took a commitment from him. And for 4 years or 3 years, people thought that he was going to be the next great Ohio State quarterback because I think he was 6'3", had a big arm, and as a true freshman, like was just like bigger and better than everybody.
Yeah.
He got a big block O tattooed on his arm. Like,
when
I mean one of those that is really hard to remove and like really detailed ink. I wish I could show you the thing. And Ohio State, after 3 years, moved on from him. And I believe that was the Tate Martell class. And they ended up taking somebody else instead of him because he didn't get better. He didn't grow anymore. Like, and by the time he got to, college, he just wasn't what they thought he was going to be. And then after that, went to Kentucky, and it didn't work out at Kentucky. And I think he went to Vanderbilt or something after that. And it's just like the same thing that you're saying. It's just because he was over evaluated early on. And I also think too that might have been a cautionary tale for Ohio State and other programs to be careful who you accept a commitment from very early in their careers.
Well, that's the thing. It's a lot of these guys are very early bloomers, and if you want to find some value in recruiting, watch senior film, because there's a lot of guys that don't physically develop till they're a senior, and they come in, and it's like Ashton Genty. People weren't really on him until the summer before his senior year. And I think if Baylor or TCU or Texas Tech had offered him much earlier, they'd have gotten him. But
and if you're a recruit, don't get a really big tattoo of the school before you do something there on your arm or
exactly. Yeah. There was a why am I blanking? There was a linebacker who got an Auburn tattoo and then went to Alabama.
Yeah, I know. Like, doesn't
Reuben
I just feel like
Reuben Foster. Yeah.
I don't have any tattoos. Do you have a tattoo?
No.
That was
my
the
wife
tattoo.
does.
Show the cover up now. I don't know if but that you can't cover that up. Like that's
he
like
put a lion in the middle of it.
He did put a lion in the
middle
of it, but you could still see the block O. It was an unfortunate situation because he was a good kid, really nice guy, and I was rooting for him. And I had a relationship with him when he was in high school, and like I thought he was going to be awesome. I did in-depth features. I spent a weekend with him and his family. Like it was a big deal. And then by the time he was a senior in high school, he wasn't as special as he was as a freshman. So, and that happens, and maybe not through any fault of his own. It just
and now with the portal, you like a lot of times you'll see those guys just go one school because they just were evaluated wrong, and they're trying to find their level.
The thing with me and tattoos, Andy, has always been there's been nothing important to me enough in my life that I felt like I needed to have it on my body forever. Maybe at times in seasons I felt like something, but then now I have a daughter and I feel like I could get her name on my body.
Exactly.
I don't have
that is the easy one because that's definitely important enough. Speaking of lasting things that last forever, Colorado is going to retire the numbers of Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders at the spring game. Number 2 and number 12, officially untouchable. Ari. This feels a little soon. And
for one,
why are you retiring Shedeur's at all? Like Travis says you were going to retire at some point because he won the Heisman Trophy. He's only, so I get that. But that's a pure Dion vanity play to retire Shedeur's number, right?
Well, I didn't think really much of it because, I don't know the history of Colorado football like the back of my hand. But when I didn't blink at all when I saw this yesterday, I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe Shedeur is just like the most productive quarterback in program history. But then I realized that Cordell Stewart's number wasn't retired, and I found that to be offensive. Like once I got that the context, then I was like, oh, God.
If a Colorado quarterback's number is going to be retired, the first one needs to be Cordell Stewart. Now, there's one Colorado quarterback whose number is retired already, and that's Byron Whizzer White, who was an All-American. Now, he played quarterback and running back. He also became a Supreme Court justice later and he wrote the majority opinion, or no, excuse me, he wrote the minority opinion in the NCAA versus Board of Regents case, the one that decided the television stuff in the 80s. So he was big into college football. But Byron Whizzer White, he was the first number that they retired, number 24. Joe Romig, who was an offensive guard. Bobby Anderson, who played running back. Rashaan Salam is the interesting one here because, like Travis Hunter, Rashaan Salam won the Heisman. Now, they did not retire his jersey until after he died. And if you know about Rashaan Salam, you kind of understand maybe he didn't really like the attention. And I don't know that he would have wanted that while he was alive.
Here's the deal, too, and here's the Wolverine scoop saying something that I wanted to say. Are they the only players to ever have their jersey numbers retired who never beat a ranked team or win a bowl game?
Yes.
And the question that I do have, though, is there are two aspects of this that are interesting. One is why immediately, right? Like, why do it now? But then secondly, too, you also could make a better case for them if they were the ones who laid the foundation for a program resurgence that had a lasting impact on Colorado football, which you will never know until 5, 6, 7 years down the line.
Right. And also, the way you do the jersey retirement, if you do it, is they've been out for a while, maybe even their NFL career's over, and they come back, and it's a huge celebration of them. But, Ari, can I tell you my opinion on retiring jerseys in college in general?
Sure.
I don't think you should do it. You're
I think
carrying over 100 people on the roster. You got to double up numbers anyway. Like, you can't be taking numbers away. It's not the NFL where you have 53 on the roster, so you have 47 spots that you can delete and be okay.
A lot of times, people too ask for permission to wear retired numbers, and
Right. Well, here's what I think you should do. I think so. Syracuse retired the number 44, which is like Syracuse number 44 is maybe one of the best numbers in the history of football. They retired it in 2005. They restored it in 2015 so that they could honor really good players by allowing them to fight for the right to wear it, which I think is the way to do it. So, Syracuse number 44 is Jim Brown, Ernie Davis, and Earl Little wore number 44. Like, that's as three guys go, it doesn't get much better than that.
Well, here's the thing with the retired numbers. I think that if you win the Heisman, you should. Now, that gets kind of tricky.
Yeah, I'm not arguing about Travis Hunter. Like, if you retire numbers, if you're a school that retires numbers, Travis Hunter's number should get retired. No argument for me here.
But what if Shedeur Sanders is a top 3 pick? Does that matter?
Okay. You can wait. then wait and see what happens.
Yeah. And like every school has a different threshold too for retired numbers. Like, if you go to a place like Bama, it's a lot more difficult to retire numbers because you have elite level Heisman caliber players every year there. Where at Colorado, it's, the thing that I went to look up is Cordell Stewart wasn't drafted until the late second round.
Because he was the slash. He was slash in the NFL. He was quarterback and receiver.
But let me ask you though, because I was very young. I was 5 years old when he was playing college football. You were probably 10. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
But like, what was Cordell Stewart as a player in college?
Freaking awesome.
And was he better than Shedeur?
He was probably as good, and Colorado was a much better team.
I know the iconic play that Cordell Stewart was a part of. That Hail Mary that they play.
Yeah, but Colorado was a national power at the time.
Yeah.
So it was a different context. I think, by the way, with Syracuse, I think I said Earl Little. I meant Floyd Little. Very sorry. Floyd Little, Jim Brown, Ernie Davis. Number 44. Yeah. Not that order. I believe it went Ernie Davis, Jim Brown, Floyd Little. So I think because you've got so many numbers, like the number 2 should be a number that every player who's not a lineman who goes to Colorado should strive to earn. Like, that would be the coolest thing. If you could work your way into wearing Travis Hunter's number. LSU does this to number 18.
Yeah.
It's not a retired number.
Yeah. Don't other schools have honorary numbers? Isn't like the one at Michigan big?
Michigan has several, and they'll give them out, but it's important. And then Texas A&M obviously has number 12.
Yeah.
Which goes to a walk-on, and like there's a whole reason behind a story behind that. So
LSU's number 7 is isn't that like their DBs, or is it for everyone? Oh yeah, Leonard Fournette wore 7, didn't he?
Yeah, but so they have 18, they have 7. Different schools have different ones.
Ohio State has the O now, the block O.
When Matt Rule was at Temple, he made the whole single digits a thing. Like, you had to earn a single digit. And so
yeah. And somebody in the
Larry
chat,
Jones, Shedeur holds over 100 school records at Colorado. Yeah, I know, but it's not even the same sport as it was when Cordell Stewart played. Like, Cordell Stewart, had he played in 2024, would have thrown for a lot of yards too.
Yeah. Travis Hunter, nothing from me on this.
I have no complaints about Travis Hunter having his jersey retired.
I don't even think I would complain about Travis Hunter if even on the timing of it. Like, it's just, he's awesome. He's one of the most iconic players that I've ever seen in college football. And also, I have a tremendous amount of respect for his personal story. Now, I know he attached himself to Dion, But this is a guy who could have gone to Florida State.
He could have done this anywhere. He could have done it with anybody.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know if he would have been able to play two ways everywhere as much as he did.
Yeah, I think Dion does deserve credit for letting him do that because I don't think most coaches would have been willing to try.
Well, it was out of necessity as much as it was out of doing him a favor. Like, I mean, like they needed him on both sides of the ball everywhere.
Here's the thing. Even out of necessity at other schools, I don't think they would have been willing to try.
But anyway, it's the Shedeur one that's a little bit weird. And I think maybe part of it too, if his name was Shedeur Smith, would we be thinking about this? Or like you have to also acknowledge the fact that he's the coach's son. Like that like everything optically is more difficult. That doesn't mean he didn't.
He didn't do anything that would get like there are lots of record-setting quarterbacks. Like there was a point where Nick Florence broke a record that RG3 held at Baylor. Should Baylor retire Nick Florence's number? RG3 won the Heisman. So
you should write an 800-word column just like blasting Colorado for it.
No.
I would love to see that. Yeah.
This is not a person who would get their jersey retired under any other circumstances. So it's interesting because they're both doing it at the same time. So like the Travis Hunter one, never going to complain about. If you are a school that retires jerseys and you have a player like Travis Hunter, you retire his jersey. But Shedeur's not that level.
Yeah, I think I'm with you.
So, but listen, it's your program. You do whatever you want. Again, I wouldn't retire any jerseys at all. I would make it a reward for players who earn the right to wear it. I think that's more fun anyway. I think that's a more fun tradition.
And also, too, still holds the same purpose, which is honoring the person who initially wore it. So, yeah. Well, I don't know, like if we have any time constraints or somebody or something else to talk about, but I was just wondering.
Well, JD's show is coming up at
how much time do we have?
10 Central, so we can go until then if we want to.
But I want to bring up a grab ass topic.
Bring it up. Well, hold on, before we do that, let's look in the portal.
Okay.
See if there's any other huge names. Not a lot of huge names. Notre Dame safety Kennedy Urlacher. Cornerback Tavoy Fagan going as committed to Ole Miss. He left Clemson. He's going Ole Miss. So we have not seen the bomb of a quarterback that is currently starting. We have not seen a lot of currently starting players who want to enter the portal. Last night we got news that Buffalo's best edge rusher was going to go in. But we haven't seen a ton of teams losing guys that they're really counting on.
I've got a dental appointment at noon, so let's just hope for the best here. I might have to come out of the dental appointment with those like clips on and do a show like this.
Remember when you went on Feinbaum bleeding from the mouth in the middle of a dental appointment?
Yeah, not to get too in the weeds, but that was a extrememely painful cleaning. Like I had to get a deep cleaning. I guess I wasn't good enough brushing my
gross
teeth.
debridement, they like to call it.
Yeah, whatever that was, it was awful.
It's gross.
And so now I've like totally upped my game with the flossing and stuff because I don't ever want to do that again. The thing I wanted to ask you, because I've been thinking about this, not for any particular reason, but just because I've brought up the working with your hands thing. If you weren't in sports journalism, what are 3 things that you think you would like to do? Because I think I have 3 things.
Okay, I've always said I'd probably be an English teacher / high school football coach. If I didn't do this, that's probably the most likely thing that I would do.
But like, what about like fun things that you think would be cool to try? Maybe that is
underwear model. Absolutely, I would definitely be an underwear model.
I feel like I would want to go knock on people's doors who have classic cars in their driveways and try to buy them for cheap and then fix them up and flip them. I think that would be really fun. I think it would be really fun to be a storage ward person. I'm fascinated by this. Like, I don't like is Storage Wars like a completely dramatized Hollywood thing, or do the people actually do this and make money?
People actually do it, but they made that show. A lot of it was fake.
Okay, because I feel like it's probably not glamorous because you were just trying to like buy a storage unit for $200 and then flip like conventional ovens that are sitting in there for $250. But like that would be fun. Like, I don't know, like rooting around in other people's shit would be great. Like, I don't know why I feel like that would be cool. And then
I would want to go to culinary school and learn to become a chef.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Or like opening up like a car detail place that films the detail of cool cars that haven't been detailed in a while. I'm stealing that idea, but I think that would be awesome. There's nothing more satisfying than cleaning a filthy automobile.
I think you should bring back Pimp My Ride, to be honest with you. If you're gonna do that, just go all the way. I'll be your version of Exhibit. We put a fish tank in your car.
I mean,
I'm all for
MTV
it.
Cribs and Pimp My Ride should definitely be back.
100%.
I think they would do well, because doesn't MTV just like show the same thing over and over again?
They just play ridiculousness over and over, I think. Yeah.
It's like, I feel like if they
All right,
had new MTV Cribs, the fascination of celebrity homes isn't gone. But I also too would love to own a pawn shop, and it's funny. That
Greatest episode of Cribs ever was ODB, because it was just like a crappy apartment, and there was one room that just had an ironing board on the floor.
It had a cockroach.
And that was the only thing in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever seen?
All
those
right,
memes
Ari,
of how men
we've
live
reached the level of
forever?
ridiculousness in this show.
Okay, bye. I was having fun.
We will be around all day monitoring the transfer portal. If there is huge news, we may go live. Tomorrow, we probably will have a little better idea where things are going. Pete Nakos is going to join us, help break down everything that's happened. Later in the week, dear Andy, dear Ari, we want to hear from you. So if you have a question, you know where to find us. We're on social media. I'm at Andy_Staples on Twitter and Instagram. Ari is at Ari Wasserman. You can email AndyStaplesOn3@gmail.com. You can also email ari.wasserman@gmail.com. Send those emails along. Send those questions. We already got a couple good ones. Our guy, Willie, who always brings it in the chat, emailed me a really good question the other day about the quarterback class of 2023 that I think is probably going to make the show. But
we have
send us
smart
those
listeners,
questions.
and we appreciate them, and we use them.
Oh.
So if you have
Oh, yeah.
something that's on your mind, a criticism, a compliment, a thought, a theory, you know me, I'm a theories guy. We use them. We want them. And the Dear Andy Ari episodes have been only half the episode because we've only had a few pretty good ones to use. So the more we get, the more likely we are to get.
Oh, we're going to get a bunch this week,
So,
Ari. I'm
yeah,
not worried about
sure.
that.
Yeah. But like, we appreciate them and we want them. We do. I don't want to beg, but I've already begged once on the show. I don't want to do it again.
You should have begged. We're begging you. Come back tomorrow, because we're going to break down everything that's happened in the transfer portal. Maybe we'll know where Nico wound up. Who knows? We do this every day, Monday through Friday, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time, right here on the On3 Sports YouTube channel. Stay tuned. Come back to the On3 Sports YouTube channel in 25 minutes. JD Piquel in the hard count. They had Marcus Freeman on yesterday. You never know who's going to show up.